Your culture is either being built by you or being built by default. So I want you to think about this for just a minute. I want you to imagine the person in your organization or in your team who happens to be the biggest naysayer, the biggest pot stirrer, the one that you look at and you're like, ugh. Because if you're not building your culture, it's being built by somebody like that. Guaranteed. It's always being built. And if you're not actively building it, somebody else is. Guaranteed. So you have to think about, are you building your culture or not? You have to build it every single day. It's not something you build one time, you're like, oh, done. It's something you do all the time. And I learned this from a guy by the name of Jason G. So when I first started coaching basketball, there's this wonderful coach, Coach G. He was the men's basketball coach. He was phenomenal. And I remember the very first day of practice. So his guys are in there and they're doing push-ups and they're screaming, conference champs, conference champs, conference champs. I'm like, dude, Jason, it's the first day of practice. And he said, Coach Winn, today is the day we build our culture. And we build it every single day. So I watched him build his culture and I took notes. I mean, I was following this guy around. I'm like, notes. Literally, like I was a shadow. Wherever he went, I went. And I'm like, take a note. But he would do this wonderful job of talking to his guys. He would say things like this. He'd say, John, you're the guy. You're the guy who's going to help us win this championship because you have that championship rebounding ability. And he had talked to his guys using championship. He would write on his, when he wrote his practice plans out, he'd go, winning practice, championship practice. And he just built this mentality of his team. And I watched him do that. And I was like, man, he's brilliant. So I took notes and I decided I'm going to be like Jason G. I'm going to be like him. And here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're not doing that, if you're not constantly building your culture with the values you want, if not every single person on your team knows your values, if they do not know your values, you're not building a culture. So a couple of years ago, an organization in Houston called me out and they said, Coach Winn, we want you to help us build our winning culture. So we gave 5 things to this team, to this organization. But I'm not going to talk about one because this is a huge one. And if you can do this in your organization, huge things will change. You're going to see amazing things change like this company did. So they were a software company. They weren't able to, they were in the red for 5 years. They couldn't get to the black. They had this obstacle. They wanted to go from, surviving to thriving. They couldn't get that. So what they did was they said, oh, Coach Winn, help us. Well, when people are coachable, this is important. When people are coachable, things can change fast. So we had 5 different things we addressed, but the number one thing was this. They stopped being a yeah, but culture. This is important because yeah, but people get stuck. They never go anywhere. So what they did is they became a yeah, and. So somebody was saying, hey, I've got a great idea. They didn't go, yeah, but. They took that language out and they started saying, yeah, and show me a way that will work. Yeah, and let's look at that a little bit differently. Yeah, and go research that and show me 3 ways that will work, and let's implement it. So before that, they become really yeah, but that's a stupid idea. Yeah, but we don't have time for that. Yeah, but. And what happens when you do this? You demotivate your people. You demotivate them. And organizations are really good at demotivating people. What you want is a culture of motivation. To create that winning culture, people must be motivated. They must be heard and they must be valued. And one of the ways to do that is to just stop saying yeah, but. Now, I've many times had to talk to people through this because they're like, yeah, but we can't waste time. Yeah, but. And I will say, look, is there when somebody's motivated, when they're motivated, is it ever a waste of time if they're motivated? And the answer is no. The answer is always no. So one of the things for you to build your winning culture is, number 1, make sure that you're actively building it. Number 2, make sure certain that people know your values. They're very clear what your values are. Your values need to be posted on your meeting agendas. It should be posted. It should be at the bottom of all your email. Your values should be somewhere that they can read them, like a locker room, right? Like a locker room. When people run out of a locker room, every locker room I've ever been into has all these sayings everywhere up on the locker room wall, right? Blah, blah, blah. And people hit those sayings. They talk about the sayings. They reply the sayings. They have these, they get in the huddle and they say the thing that they're going to be. And what I'm telling companies is you have to build a culture like that. You have to build a culture where everybody knows what your values are, where it's not a guess. If I were to ask any team member in your culture, any team member, if I were to ask them, they'd be able to say, these are our 3 top values. This is what we're known for. This is our mission statement. So your culture is either being built by you or it's being built by default. So my question to you is, what are you doing today to build your culture? Does everybody know? Does everybody know who you are so they can repeat it? They know it. They feel it. They imagine it. If you walk into a winning culture, you don't have gossiping. You don't have backbiters. You have people who are keeping people responsible. You're having people who are saying things like, look, that's not the way we think here. This is the way we think here. You have your own team members holding accountability for each other. So listen, if you want a winning culture, it's not a one-time thing, it's an all-time thing. It's an everyday thing to bring your people into that. And if you're going to be that winning culture, you have to decide what are our top values and how, not just what our top values are, but how are we going to get our people to really live those values. Remember, you build your culture. And if you want a winning culture and a championship team, you must do that every day. Please, every day.